Okay, one thing I want to say right off the bat, this whole thing is gonna be a mess. I am not using a script. I do not have enough time to even write a script. I'm doing it because I'm bored and I just want to scream into a mic for like 10 minutes straight. So bear with me. And the second thing I want to mention is right away is that why can you guys never let anything go? I'm looking at you, Kingdom Hearts 3 fan. Oh my god, the whole Yozora and the Nameless Star thing. You guys are looking so deep into something that it's essentially a puzzle. It's not even, can't even laugh at it. Anyway, this whole 10, I don't know how long this will be. Like I said, I'm doing this unscripted, so pardon me if I stumble a lot and I'm thinking a lot, because I'm gonna do that a lot either way. But the thing is, this is gonna be about Versus 13 and Final Fantasy 15 and the whole Nomura's involvement and what really happened, because there's a lot of misinformation still being spread to this day about this whole situation that it's honestly getting annoying, because people act as though that these are facts, that this is what genuinely happened. But the thing is, it's not. Most of this stuff I see and still hear from a lot of forums or posts or whatever are still factually wrong. And I'm gonna start from the start, and that being from 2006 with the announcement of Final Fantasy 13. Back then, Square Enix was so ambitious with that series, especially because they made it for the series. I want to say the Fabula Novel Crystalla, I think it's called. I really don't know how to pronounce this whole letter of mess. And during that time, they announced Final Fantasy 13 and some spin-off games for it. Yeah, they decided to make spin-off games of a game that hasn't even been released yet. I have no idea what Square Enix was thinking at the time, but that's what they were doing. And one of those games was Versus 13, which was being directed by Tetsuya Nomura. And the thing is, even from that announcement trailer, nothing, and I mean nothing, was finalized. Not even NOCTIS' name back then was finalized. Only his design, not even the story, not even the scenarios. Nothing was finalized at all. And I'm pretty sure it was made because Square Enix wanted to show what the hell they were doing at that time. And in the end, it sort of hurt Square Enix as a whole, especially with the whole fiasco of being the trilogy that is Final Fantasy 13. But I'm not gonna get into that because I've never played those games. But anyway, back then, well, I guess there was a lot of hype for it, I want to say. I don't know. And the thing is, if you don't know about 15 or Versus 13, it was in development for a long year. And there's this big misconception that when Versus 13 became 15 during E3 of 2013, that Tetsuya Nomura had no involvement during it, which is actually false. Which also goes with the whole Stella Nox Florette becoming Luna Freya Nox Florette. The thing is, all of this was overlooked by Tetsuya Nomura himself. All of that, the whole big changes, was overlooked by Nomura himself. It was never that, and it didn't help by the fact that during Japan Expo 2013 as well, where it was stated that Tetsuya Nomura himself invited Hajime Tabata to be a co-director. It was never that Square Enix took Nomura away from his passion project and forced Tabata into it. It's never like that. People act as though that the project was absorbed from him, or and were taken away from him and was forced to do Kingdom Hearts 3. It was never anything like that. Not at all. It was just the fact that he stepped down as a director because they rather have him, not have him, that he would rather work on Kingdom Hearts 3, which is like, think about it. What would Nomura do? Work on a spin-off game for a series, for a trilogy that sort of people mostly hate, or focus on a series that he was there from 2002? So think about it. And again, Nomura invited Hajime Tabata to be the co-director. So it's like, who else will take the helm for this project? The co-director, who was invited by Nomura himself. Hajime Tabata never forced himself. He never, quote-unquote, bastardized his creation. And it's like, that's the fact. And it was like, and the whole new director was announced in 2014, a year after the E3 where it was announced Versus 13 became 15. So that's one misconception I wanted to get rid of right away, because there's still so many false information about it, especially with the whole Yozora and Remind scenario. The thing is, and I'm gonna have people mentioning this, but the thing is, like, why is Nomura using so many concepts from Versus 13 in Remind for the new next couple of Kingdom Hearts games, supposedly? The thing is, when you have an unused concept, you don't throw it away, you keep it for another project. That's happened in a lot of games during development, especially early on in a game's development. The thing is, you started with a concept and later on that concept can change or completely remove in favor of another concept. What do you do with that original concept? You don't throw it away, you save it for another game. That happens to a lot of different other games. Like, it was supposed to be for that series, but they changed it for this series. It just happens. But the thing is, with Versus 13, they just announced it so early on in development that it's like, what are you gonna do with it? It's gonna change. That's what happened. The thing with Zella and Luna Freya, people act as though these two are completely different characters, but the thing is, it's not. What happens in development, stuff changes, and Stella and Luna Freya are essentially the same character, and yeah, that's what I want to see, because that's what happened in development. Stuff changes. That's what happened to Luna Freya and Stella. They change in development, and again, Nomura was the one that overlooked that change. It's not that Tepata came over and just cut off the character entirely. That's just a weird misconception people just have with it. And this whole Stella versus Luna Freya character thing is absolute dumb, because I'm telling you this now, if you honestly thought if Nomura still worked on Versus 13, made it his own thing, that the story would have been better, I'm sorry, this is Nomura we're talking about. Like, I mentioned this on my podcast that yeah, I actually like his storytelling, but he does need like 9 games before making the masterpiece that is Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm saying that now, I don't care what people are gonna say. And the thing is, with Kingdom Hearts 3, if I have not played those past games, that game will not have been that amazing for me if I didn't do it. And it's like, did you all forget about Kairi? Did you honestly thought Stella would have been a better character? Because like, Kairi, honestly, have you seen her in Kingdom Hearts 3? Because I haven't seen her in that game at all. So it's always this funny, like, oh, this verse, like Stella versus Luna Freya, because it's such a dumb argument. Oh, and another misconception that goes along is this whole Reaper worshipping thing. That stems from a really bad translation from Shinigami. Shinigami does not have a direct translation, and it's barely translated as a Reaper. Maybe that's Scream Reaper by some, but it was translated as Reaper to make it easier, and people just completely took the Reaper and make it into something that it isn't, and it's like, nope, it was original Shinigami, and it wasn't even removed, it was just toned down a bit, and it's just dumb. And I've mentioned this before, I'm probably gonna make another video next year when I actually have time to focus and write a good script, because I do want to mention this amazing Reddit post by the user Scissorman that compiles all the information from the announcement of the game towards its release, and it just lists all the interviews that were released along the way, and it just perfectly captures it. And I just want to say now is like, if you, for some reason, people want to blame somebody, people want to blame Nomura, people want to blame Tabata, or whoever they want to blame. But the thing is, if you want to blame somebody, I think there's only 2 quote-unquote reasonable one I want to say. And that first one being Square Enix. Honestly, Square Enix managing things can be so weird sometimes, even with Kingdom Hearts 3. It was just announced too early in development, and it takes so long to be released. It happens with them a lot. And the second one, it's fans themselves. The game was announced in 2006, and I'm telling you now, a lot of people who were hyped for this game were probably teenagers or kids going through their emo scene goth phase, and they saw this edgy, dark, greedy Final Fantasy based on the real world, and it just fueled that drive, and it's like, and their imagination just went over the roof, and their hype just made it into something that was simply would have not been. And the thing is, it happens to a lot of games. It happened to me, where the hype just overtook me, and it turns a game that should have been amazing into a game that I just do not like. It happens to a lot of games. And it doesn't help that still, nowadays, you still have people spreading this misconception that Square Enix took Nomura away, they forced someone else to do the game, which is just completely false. And people trying to keep bringing it up with so many like interview that came out where Nomura stated something along the lines that like, oh, I can actually talk about this, which is just dumb. Versus 13 will never happen, and that's just facts. Concept that was born from Versus 13 can still happen, which is what Verum Rex is, because that's what you do with unused concept. You don't throw it away, you save it for another game. Why would you throw it away? That makes no sense. It's like, and the thing is, could I be wrong? Could in the end, when like the next Kingdom Hearts game has Verum Rex and then a massive meta commentary by Nomura being annoyed and pissed and mad or something, I could be wrong, but I highly doubt it, especially with the interview where he states that he invited Hajime Tabata himself. The fact that a development team, like someone I completely forgot. Also, I am gonna link all the relative links I have up discussing all of this, so if you want to check my quotes, just look down there, it's there. And like the development team said, it's like Nomura does not have any hatred or pissed about it, because why would he? He still works for Square Enix. I mean, come on, if you think he would really be petty about it, will he still work for a game company that quote unquote ruined his original image or something? And it's like, it's just dumb. People bringing it up even afterwards, people still using it as clickbaiting. Is like, anyway, this video could have been done so much better. I've done this because I'm bored and I wanted to talk shit. I wanted to scream shit, I guess. I don't know. But it's like, let things die, people. Let concept be reused. Can you just never let things go? Honestly. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I apologize if I ended up repeating a lot of stuff, but the thing is, I just want to get the biggest misconception out of the way. That was Nomura kicked out of the 13 versus 13 or whatever thing, but it's like, it's not Verum Rex, it's just a concept that from versus 13 that he's continuing, because will you throw away a good concept? And again, for the love of God, people, let things go. And again, if I'm begging you, if I see another post about this whole Tetsuya Nomura was stripped away from this project, it's like, don't be so dumb. Do your research. Do not listen to that one guy who said it like that and take it as facts. For the love of God.